like your shirt.
Thank you. I got it from a vintage store in LA. It's from the 70s that the AMC girls wore at like film markets.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Ready when you are.
Ready. Julia, we are here at Curzon Bloomsbury. Have you been to a Curzon cinema before? Have watched a movie in a Curzon cinema before?
I had like a screening at the Curzon cinema here, but I don't live in London, so no, I didn't get the chance to go there like just as a moviegoer.
Do you have a favourite cinema that you go to?
Actually, I don't know if it's not a particular cinema, but for some reason I love going to the theaters in New York.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing how much the audience react, which is very different from, the French etiquette. In the US, they like, even, in a regular screening where you buy your tickets and this, people will actually like talk to the characters on screen, they will react, they will jump, they will yell, they will cry, they will laugh. They're so expressive. I really enjoyed the experience. I tend to go there a lot.
I remember seeing, I think it was Black Panther at like a very big screening, and it was so beautiful because there were so many people from the Black community there, and it was really like this call and response to the screen, and it really has that energy in cinemas.
They do.
I think there is something beautiful about seeing film in a dark room with loads of other people because there is that energy. And I guess like when you're making films, obviously we're in such a streaming world, is it for you, you're like, I want people to see this film in a cinema?
Oh, definitely. In many ways. So the first reason is because, as you said, I think this is still like one of the most unique way to experience communion as a group with strangers. And we are in the dark, so there has to be trust because we're in the dark, right? We're in a dark room together. And so there has to be an element of trust there that is almost blind. And I love the fact that, somehow you can feel the emotions spreading throughout, the room, and that it can become really an experience of catharsis that is extremely communal, and I really, really do love that. The second reason is that as a filmmaker, I come from movies, so I tend to think about my shots and to create my shots, and also to work on the sound of my films, thinking about a big screen. Because obviously, for example, as far as the sound is concerned, I use a lot of deep basses, of mega basses, ultra basses, which are sounds that you will only hear in a theater because I use them because, they're the kind of basses that make your seats, tremble and vibrate, and that you can actually feel within your body. It's a very organic experience to use these basses because you can really feel them in your abdomen and your thoracic cage. And if you watch it on a computer, there is no way you will ever hear them and feel them. It's impossible, obviously, because it doesn't have and even if you have a great surround thing, a home installation, it's not, you will not feel them the same way that you would in a theater. So really the way I think my storytelling, as far as the directing choices I make, I really think them for the big screen, for the experience.
Yeah, I feel when I watch your films, I do have this visceral reaction, and I think the kind of genre and the genre that you use to tell stories, it's so much of that, it comes out from the sound. It's that creating of sense of anxiety. But what I really love about, I guess, both Raw, Titan and Alpha is, it seems to me that instead of having your stories conform to the genre, you use genre to kind of conform to your stories.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes you can get into these tropey ways where, jump scares or things like that. I think expectations when you go in to see a film that is got under the label horror. So I'd love you, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the reason why you feel like this, and thank you for that, because that's really what I'm trying to do, is that I don't see genre as a label. I see it as a language, as a grammar. And this grammar helps you create your own language. So I use, let's say, the tools of genre, and in order for me to incorporate them within not only my story, but my characters' point of views, because in my films, it's really the inner journey that counts. You're always led by the inner POV of one or two characters and you feel with them. Like if they see something, you see it. If they feel something physically, I'm going to try to have you feel them physically as well, because I really do believe that this organic experience creates a bond, that is, I hope, kind of like a bond that breaks any preconceived idea you could have on these human beings that I'm showing you at this moment, and that becomes some kind of like innate or, as they say, like organic or just human, basically. And I really like to insist on the experience of the body for that, because for me the body, when it is shown and felt in its most vulnerable aspect, which I believe in its most, honest, hence sometimes ugly, sometimes painful, sometimes graceful, but completely deprived of any form of glamour, any form of social mask that we bear on our daily life, I think it is really a place for communion. It's really a place for empathy. And an empathy that is like beyond the intellectual structure that we could start building about someone.
Yeah, and I feel like you really lay yourself bare in your films, and you've said how, I guess, each of your characters, it's kind of you write yourself into your characters, but with Alpha, this maybe feels like the most explicitly personal one for you, would you say? Just because it's such a specific thing about this family, it's your family, it's very much inspired by your experiences.
Yes and no, because what I want to say is that it's a process, it's a continuity in between films of me trying to dig deeper within, obviously, my emotions, but also trying to fight my own battles as far as what's being left unsaid within me, what is being left taboo within me, things that I do not want to face, that I don't want to confront within me. And it's a constant challenge of trying to get closer and closer to the danger zone that these areas represent for me. So I really believe that Raw and Titan were very personal works as far as I'm concerned, but they were made with, who I was at the time, meaning that, you kind of, you try to get closer and closer and more honest and more vulnerable every time. You try to expose yourself more every time. So hopefully people will say that my next one is my most personal one, and the one afterwards, and the one afterwards. And that ultimately, if I manage to create a form of body of work, people will say this, that somehow I get closer and closer and, every time in the sincere and in the genuine aspect of this research. So Alpha, sure, yes, up to date, but it doesn't close a cycle to me,
Yeah, but I think what I really love is, the mother-daughter relationship is such a tactile, such a complex, individualistic, but also universal for so many of us. And I think about the films that I love that show a sort of a relationship. So Rosetta, the Dardenne brothers, I love that one. I also, Saint-Omer, Alice Diop's film recently. Yeah, and that film for me kind of was so much about this kind of bonded relationship between an understanding mothers and daughters that Alpha shows, and this idea, there's a bit at the end of Saint-Omer where the defense lawyer is kind of explaining how as women, it's a chimeric cell where when a woman gives birth, some of the cells of the child remains in their womb, and therefore it's this mutated thing where your mother is also kind of has you in there. And so much about Alpha is like this relationship between mother and Alpha is this bond that they have, and this feeling where there's a beautiful line which is like, I want to...
What happens to you happens to me too, yeah.
I think that's so powerful, and get into that space. And I writing that is that really cathartic experience for you when you got to put pen to paper? And I guess your inspiration from seeing stories of mothers and daughters, from Mommy Dearest to Ladybird, come into your own space with that.
I think honestly, when you tackle this relationship, I really don't think that you think in terms of references of what's been done before, because it's so personal, and it's so like the relationship you have with your mother, whichever it is so unique. It's unique for everyone, and when you tend to focus yourself on this, then you can only talk from experience and not think about like how like someone has done. For example, I mean, I love Mommy. It's a great film about, you know, the son-mother relationship, and definitely about motherhood and stuff like this. But I connected to it in the universal level, but it's not my story, it's his story. And I think that when you make a film about that, that's really a place where you can't come from references or thinking about what others have done. It's really something that is quite visceral, that is very definitely psychoanalytical and existential in many ways. But yeah, I know I did not think about any other movies that have been made. I didn't even look into it. It didn't even occur to me to look into it. That's just, you know, because that's something that you express in such a visceral way that is necessarily flawed. I still don't think I have the distance. That was supposed to be a late film, but probably even if I had done this film in my 70s, I will still not have the distance that, you know, in my mind, I believe one should have in order to talk about this. So I it's just, I think that it kind of like triggered, I think, a little step forward, you know, in terms of as I was saying before, exposing myself, because I think that when you talk about this relationship, you really expose an extremely, as I said, unique, individual, very private, intimate part of you, because it's really through the character of Mom and the way you portray her, it says a lot about where you come from the beginning of your life until now. Like it's really, it's like literally an origin story.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I think there's some things as well as a viewer. You put art into the world and it no longer belongs to you, but then people can, is it lovely when you hear those? Because when I watching it, I was like, oh God, this, you know, I think about the Scarlet Letter, Nathaniel Hawthorne, like Hester Prynne being marked, and obviously
that's a reference.
There you go.
Yes,
okay,
of course. Yes.
But even like the thing, what I like is that whether intentionally or not, we kind of consume osmosis in many ways. How things that we don't even know that might be thinking about. Like I think of the fact that Mother doesn't have a name, and think about Of Mice and Men and Curly's wife. She's never named, and she's only known by her relationship to other people and that sort of identity.
That's because she's objectified by men.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's because she becomes a figure and a projection of male desires on her, and she's just a representation through the male gaze. That's why she's not given a name. And I think it's an interesting way actually to portray the tragedy that is her life, you know, as far as like the way she's in the world is only, again, a fantasy, an illusion that she kind of has to abide by, you know, out of like just survival necessity and adaptation to the world she lives in. As far as Mom is concerned, the reason why I did not give her a name is in a way also to portray her as a representation, but through her daughter's eyes. Through her daughter's eyes, she's not only her own mother, but she sees her as the mother with a capital M, because she sees her mom as someone who just like has this maternal instinct overspreading around the entire world, as far as her brother is concerned, her family, her patients, and everyone that is in need for care. So in that way, Alpha idealizes her mom very much. And that's why I'm not giving her a name, because in Alpha's head, she is the mother, right? But which makes it incredibly difficult for Alpha to find her way through emancipation, because how can you emancipate from such a golem, basically, you know? And that's also the reason why I made her a golem at the beginning. But the thing is that with Mom and Alpha in their relationship, one of the stakes is that Alpha, in order to try to break away, not only from the figure that her moms represent, but from the traumas that her mom unwillingly and unconsciously transmits to her in order to break away from these pains that are not hers, but really her mom's. And yet that she can't help but feeling, because the fusion is so strong, you know, and so close-knitted. I really think that at the end, the very important thing is that the way she looks at her mom is no longer as mom, it's as a person. And this is when, for me, I think it gives like a sense of what their relationship will be after the film. Because in the very, very last frames of the film, we see Alpha standing in the Tempest and watching her mom, you know, hunched and crushed on the floor after having let her brother go for good this time. And we see her through Alpha's eyes in a very wide shot. And this wide shot is important because if it had been a POV that was close, if they had been close in the set, then the fusion would still be on, you know, it will still be going on. Here there is a distance, and this distance represents the distance and the change of Alpha's point of view on her mom, looking at her as the woman she is, that she was, and as the person who had this life, did the best that she could with what she had, probably failed in some ways, succeeded in others, like, you know, managed to achieve a lot, but at the same time also like overpassing the responsibility she had towards the ones she loved for fear of losing them. So she starts seeing that her mom is just a human being after all. And I think there is always a moment in life where you reach that point, you know, whether it's sooner or later, no matter. But I think it's a very, very pivotal moment in your life when you start seeing your mom just as the woman she is, and how you know, how you can read her entire history through that. And
I like the way that you have this like matriarchal lineage, like the scene where with her own mother, you know, Algerian, and she has her own kind of, what would you say, cultural kind of ways how you would deal with, you know, the red wind and water, and then suddenly you realize, do you become your mother?
Oh yeah.
And that.
Oh
and
yeah. This stage is absolutely unavoidable, isn't it? And how do you get out of this stage afterwards?
There are definitely moments where I'm like, oh God, I am my mum. But I think, it's interesting for me because I wrote a book that was like criticism and my view of how cinema influenced the way I thought about myself. And so when my mum was reading it, because I do a chapter on motherhood, and I talk about like my sex life and stuff, and she read it, and she just revealed some stuff about, oh, this is what happened when I was your age, and it was like, oh wow, like, I know because you know, when you come along, your mother's existed for, well, my case, she's been alive for 28 years, and we can never know what was going on there.
Yeah.
And so it's this thing where it's like, finding who that person is behind the mask or the kind of thing of the figure. I have to ask, because I noticed that you always have a character called Adrian in your film. Yes. Why, what's the...
But it's not only Adrian, it's Alexia as well. Alexia was already also present in my short in Junior. She was the older sister. She's the older sister as well as in Raw. She's obviously the main character. Alexia and Adrien are the main characters of Titan. And why? That's a also, why do all my names start with an A? Since the beginning.
What's going on?
I mean, you know, it's something that is both instinctive and that somehow becomes a routine, and also a perspective to apprehend the evolution of your body of work. I'm going to explain that. At the beginning, honestly, I just felt comfortable in these names. The same with Justine. Justine is there in my short, in my first feature, and my second feature, and also in the TV movie that I made a long time ago. Justine was there 4 times, and in a way she's in Alpha as well, but I'll come back to it. I just felt comfortable originally. Obviously, with Justine, you know, it's so referenced with Sade's work, and, you know, Justine ou les malheurs de la vertu. Originally, when I started naming my first character Justine, it was because of Sade. And because of this, you know, again, coming of age emancipations, birth of desires, you know, guilt of feeling the desire when you're a woman and being like completely judged by the rest of society, and like, you know, and yet trying to find a way to appropriate your own desires. So that was the origin of Justin, which was very referenced. For Alexia and Adrien, I don't know. I don't know how they popped up. I guess, I mean, for some reason, we'd written at the beginning, I thought that Alexia having an X in it kind of felt, you know, like an obstacle. And in both Junior and Raw, the sister represents an obstacle in the arch of my main character, of Justine. So I think the X part was important in that name. But then I just like grew comfortable with them. And then I realized that I just can't call them any other way. And I probably won't in the next film either, because out of the, you know, if we leave aside the comfort part, it's just that I'm getting to know these people film after film. I don't want to say, because it's not true, they're not the same characters, but to me it feels that they're a version of a different version of them.
Oh, like a multiverse.
Exactly. That was my point.
Yeah.
I feel it as a multiverse, and that in each film they explore a possible version of a possibility of their being. And that's why I can't change really this, because again, I haven't done a lot of films. I've done 3 features, a short TV movie. I'm at the beginning of my career, so I'm at the beginning of my relationship with them. So I need to explore other possibilities, you know, with them. And I think that, yeah, I think it's in a way, time after time, they become more real to me. And you know how I feel also about fluidity. And I think it represents very well what I believe as, you know, life being a constant mutation of like nothing being set in stone as far as identity is concerned, and everything remaining open and fluid, and, you know, having the possibility to elect yourself, you know, every day, and having different eras of your life, you know, and I think that's life, like having these different eras. So I think in the end, that's why.
I feel like I could talk to you for a whole day.
Well, it was super interesting. I could talk to you for hours
I
too.
know, we should stay in touch.